In this video, I'll explain what secondary chords are. Secondary chords tonicize a pitch area other than the tonic. Tonicize just means to have a temporary feeling of tonic, or a temporary feeling that there is a tonal resting place, but other than the true tonic. So for instance, in this first example, in D major, right now, the way the chords are, we have a supertonic 6, followed by a dominant, followed by a tonic. But if I wanted to tonicize the area of the dominant, I would need a secondary leading tone that would point to the dominant. The dominant is A, at least in the key of D, and in order to have a secondary leading tone, I need a G sharp that points to the A. Leading tones are always a minor second lower than the pitch that you're trying to tonicize. So for instance, if I change this G to a G sharp, it will tonicize the A. Let me go back and play the progression before I put the G sharp in. This is the supertonic, and this is the dominant, and this is the tonic. But if I put a G sharp, as we just talked about, now I've got an E major chord in first inversion, then the dominant, and then the tonic. So I can no longer call that first chord a supertonic. Its function is really a dominant in first inversion, a dominant in first inversion of the dominant. It is A is the dominant of A. So this E chord is an E major chord, which is the dominant of this A chord, which is then in turn the dominant of this D chord. So it's really about what the function of the chord is. Now we could have called it, and it would have been tempting to just call it a major 2 chord. But that doesn't actually report the function of the chord, because even though it is a major chord and it is built on the second scale degree, that E major chord, especially with that G sharp, really functions as a dominant of A. So we call it the dominant of the dominant. In this case, it's a dominant 6 of the dominant. Let's look over here where we're in D minor. Right now we have a minor tonic, followed by another minor tonic, followed by a sub-dominant chord. If I would play it the way it is now, you'll hear it in D minor, tonic, tonic, sub-dominant. But if I wanted to tonicize G, right, if I wanted to make G temporarily feel like it was a destination, a resting point, I would need a secondary leading tone. And of course the leading tone of G is F sharp. It's a minor second lower than the pitch we're trying to tonicize. So all I need to do is add an F sharp here, and that'll point to the G in the next chord. Now, for voice leading purposes, let me just change this to a C. And now my second chord is no longer some kind of a tonic chord, but actually it is a dominant 7 chord, but of the subdominant. It's a D major with a 7 on top. So now I have this minor tonic, and then this dominant 7, and then this subdominant. You can also have secondary leading tones. So for instance, in this example in E flat major, where we have a tonic, we have a dominant chord, and then a tonic chord. If I wanted to tonicize the dominant, the B flat, I could do that by way of an A natural, right? That would be a secondary leading tone that points to B flat. But the chord, instead of making it a dominant chord, maybe I would actually make a leading tone, in this case a leading tone 6, a leading tone chord of the dominant. So now I have, with the A natural, which is a chromatic alteration, and then my dominant, and then my tonic. So the chord in red is a secondary leading tone. Anyway, secondary chords tonicize a pitch area other than the tonic, and they're usually done by means of a secondary leading tone which is a chromatic alteration, a pitch that has been changed so that it points to a new do or a new pitch area that we're tonicizing.